The half marathon, for me, a super hard distance to get right. It's long enough that you need to actually pace yourself and you can't just go balls to the wall from the get-go, but at the same time it's short enough that you can actually hurt, which makes it a very difficult race to execute. And for me, I absolutely hate this distance. Personally, I'd rather go super fast for a 5k or slightly slower for a marathon, not that in-between shebang. However, that being said, I have raced quite a few in my time, and I've actually taken over an hour off my time over the years. In my slowest, I was 2:10, and at my fastest, I was a 1:14. And for me, there's 3 key tips that have enabled me to do this. Firstly, when I'm racing and training, capping my heart rate. Now, what do I mean by this? So if you train with a heart rate monitor, you can figure out where your heart rate zones are, aka how hard your body is working at a given intensity. Now, when you go to the race, if you transfer your heart rate data, you will understand what your heart rate looks like when you're starting to redline is and get towards the maximum capacity that you're able to hold. So for me, I have gone into races before and said, for example, I'm not going to let my heart rate get above 195 until the last 5 kilometers. And for me, this ensures that I don't hit the wall, bonk out, and just completely redline too early on in the race. Because if you do, the chances are you're going to be walking, you're probably going to hit the wall, and honestly, you're not going to finish in a good time at all. Tip number 2 is a long threshold session. This is literally the ideal thing to maximize your half marathon result. What do I mean by this? So your threshold is basically the pace you're able to run at for an hour. It should be pretty tough. You get 30, 40 minutes in, you don't feel you can go anymore, and then you just squeeze out those last 20. That type of thing. So it's a pretty tough pace to hold. A favourite session of mine, which gets those legs firing, gets you running at those faster paces than you're probably going to be doing for your half marathon, and basically just builds up your aerobic capacity, but at the same time your top end speed, so you get the best of both worlds. And I think that's needed if you really want to maximise your potential at a half marathon. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. My go-to session looks like, so I'll do a 30-minute warm-up. This is just a super slow, easy jog. I'm not even looking at my watch. It's just very controlled. With then a few strides, get the heart rate sort of up a little bit, and get the legs ticking over. And then the main set looks like 4 to 5 sets of 10 minutes at threshold with about 1 minute to 2 minute recoveries in between. You'll find this type of session is super transferable over to the half marathon distance, and it's a great one to implement within your weekly mileage. And finally, my last tip, which I really do recommend, is to do some 5 and 10k races prior to actually racing your half marathon. Now, why is this? Well, you're going to race a 5k, you're going to race a 10k, you're going to have some absolute physical evidence of where you're at the time. Let me give you an example. Let's say you run a 5k and it takes you 30 minutes. At this pace, you are averaging 6 minutes per kilometre. That therefore means if you go into half marathon, you know that pace is going to be too fast for you, and you can actually probably work out a decent pace from that you can hold. So it might be 6:30 per kilometre, or it might be 6:20 per kilometre. Obviously this varies depending on your ability and what your actual 5k time is, but actually racing is going to give you evidence of where you're at currently. It's going to allow you to pace your half marathon far, far better, because there's 2 things that are going to happen. Either you're underestimating yourself or overestimating yourself. For me, I usually overestimate what I can do. So I think, oh yeah, I can go into half marathon, I can run a 1:09. I can't. In training, I might be able to hit some paces that replicate that, but ultimately if I race a 5k or a 10k, that's going to show me that I'm not able to do this. And that's super, super important. By doing races prior to this that are often shorter, it's going to give you a benchmark, it's going to let you see where you're at, and it's then going to allow you to pace your half marathon far more effectively, because like I said, you've got tangible evidence of where you're at, and you can dissect the race, see where it started to hurt, see where your heart rate was rising, and it just gives you a plethora of data you can look through and basically plan your half marathon pacing strategy off of this. And the last little tip is, don't disregard nutrition just because it's a half marathon. Still take on your gel, still take on your liquid. It's long enough that if you don't take on any nutrition at all, you're going to struggle immensely. You need to keep those glycogen stores topped up, you need to stay hydrated, otherwise the likelihood is you're going to get to 17 or 18 kilometers and you will have hit the wall. And once you've hit the wall, you can't just retrace time, eat loads of gels and be absolutely fine. It doesn't work. It does not work. I've been there, I've done that. You need to be keeping a consistent top up of those glycogen stores, of liquid, so that you can stay hydrated, and then you can get to the end in one piece, and not just in one piece, but smashing your previous PR. Give these tips a go, let me know how you get on, drop a comment down below, like, subscribe, and as always, I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.